Hi, good afternoon, everybody. Today we have a very important session scheduled for you. Uh, Sorry for the technical glitch. Good afternoon, everybody. Today we have a very important session scheduled for you, and it is on time management. Time management is an important thing that all of us keep struggling with. And the subject for today's webinar is how to get more done in less time. Um, Let me tell you, students, this is a very, very important subject, very, very important topic. And to talk about time management and how to get more done in less time, we have an expert with us today. She is Miss Shilpa Sawant. She is a communication professional by training and education. Her professional experience spans over a decade with organizations of repute like India Habitat Center, New Delhi, National Institute of Design, NID, Ahmedabad, and Indian Institute of Management, Ahmedabad, and NMIMS, Mumbai. She is a sought-after trainer at management development programs for both public and private sector organizations. Her sessions on team building, the art of influencing and negotiation, time management are quite admired by the viewers, the participants. She is passionate about teaching communication as a strategy. Her area of specialization and research are corporate communication, reputation building, and development communication. She has worked on about 10 research projects at national and international level. Her research work has been acknowledged at a range of national and international conferences and has featured in academic publications. She has authored a book titled Unraveling India Through the Travel Trilogy of V.S. Naipaul. I think many of us may have read that book. She has mentored the global as well as regional winners of Google Online Marketing Challenge and served as the first Indian national on the global academic panel of Google for year 2017. Mrs. Sawant recently served as a reviewer for the annual meeting of North American Case Research Association. With that introduction, let me welcome Ms. Sawant to speak to you, to address you, to talk to you about the importance of time management in life under the theme, under the title, How to Get More Done in Less Time. Welcome, Mrs. Sawant. Now, thank you for accepting our invitation. And agreeing to talk to our audience on this important subject today. Over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Naik, for this kind introduction. It's always nice to get connected to students. So, hello, audience. Let me start by sharing an incident. So, one of these days, I was walking down the street and I met one of my students. He looked quite preoccupied and overwhelmed. And on further discussing, we realized that he's too stressed with a lot of things at hand, his studies, his work, certain things at home. And, while we just left at this, but it got me thinking about what most of us are going through. So it's absolutely natural, to get overwhelmed and feel overworked. But if on and off watching the clock makes you anxious, then probably it's time to pause and reflect. Now, constantly trying to do more in less time and to adhere to the deadlines, it is becoming a long standing problem for most of us, irrespective of the age, the stage of life, and the profession. So, while we are all struggling with this, but At the same time, I would want to link it to an awesome initiative like NUSSD, which focuses on skill development. So understand it this way: there is knowledge, there is expertise, and in reality, there is no substitute for these. But in addition to these, sometimes it requires a lot more to be a little ahead in the curve. And then there are certain skills that work in the background and are very instrumental in your success. One such skill is time management, and which enables you to get more done in less time. Now, effective time management, uh, some people consider that it's a professional tool to increase your productivity. But I personally feel that it is not just that. In fact, it is an essential life skill that can give you a sense of calm, control, and stability in a lot of ways. It allows you to kind of create meaning and feel empowered. So, while I can go on and on trying to talk about the importance of time management. We would structure the session in a way that I would want to reflect at certain concepts and draw your attention to certain insights that research has provided. So we all know about Peter Drucker, and he once wrote that, everything requires time. It is the one truly universal condition, and all work takes place in time and uses up time. Now, having said that, the definition for time management goes to saying, as per the behavioral scientist, they call it as a self controlled attempt to use time in a subjectively efficient way to achieve your desired outcomes. So we can say that it is a systematically accounting of time, or what is commonly referred as, time management. Now, this is one discipline. Sociology and research in that suggests that, even when people complain of having little control over time, in reality, we all have enough time, but we prefer to not take the responsibility of managing it. And hence, there is always this complaint of, not having enough time. So while these researchers in the management field, they constantly observe leaders, executives, CEOs, and they realized it. And this study has been done over decades. They realized that high performing executives think primarily in terms of time and not activities or strategies. So, such executives would strategize with their time allocation. So anything that is most important in the strategy part gets the most time. It looks very intuitive, but if you look at it, they are not managing tasks, they are actually managing time. Uh, so something like a temporal awareness. Temporal awareness is a belief that time is real, it is a finite source, and it needs to be budgeted. While this is true for most of us, research has also shown that there is a relationship between time management and two critical outcomes, which are well being and performance. So, we all talk about performance, and performance is something we are quite similar, familiar with. And, I don't need to elaborate much on that. But let's understand how well being is defined. So, well being per se is the experience of pleasant emotions, low levels of negative moods, and high life satisfaction. And managing time has proved to be associated with lower levels of depression, psychological distress, anxiety, and hopelessness. So, with that, I think now we should maybe quickly look at some of the ways in which we can manage time and get more things done in less time. For this, I will talk about fragmented time and focus time. So, what do I mean when I say fragmented time? Time that you have in between two meetings or two sessions, or anything that is otherwise on your schedule, and there are these gaps. So these are your fragmented time bits. Whereas the focus time is something where you are actually doing a task. Now, once we have this understanding of fragmented time and focus time, it may be very interesting to observe what takes the most chunk of our scheduled 10 hours or 8 hours a day of work. Some people will realize that probably it's the fragmented time. Maybe I do focused work only for 3 hours or 4 hours, but then I'm otherwise clocking in 8 to 10 hours of work. So one of the ways is to observe this and do things in a way that your fragmented time is minimized day by day and your focus time is increased. Now this helps to cut down on your just the face time and focuses more on being actually efficient and performing better. One more thing which a lot of people agree on and has given some sort of results is designating a day for the must do things. Now what do I mean by the must do things? Say for students it can be filling up the exam form. For professionals it can be filling up their taxes, or certain things that you anyway have to do at a weekly pace or at a monthly pace, and so on. So these are the must do things. How about having just one, or if one is not enough, just 2 days scheduled already to take care of these things? Now what it does, a, it gives you a discipline. B, go back to the fragmented time and the focus time. When you have less distractions in way, and when you are less preoccupied about these minor things which you have to do and you are just not doing it for some reason, it keeps cropping in and out, and so having a day dedicated to them leaves you more time on other days for things that are really really important. Now it's quite an in thing to talk about downtime, putting your hair down and just relaxing. While of course rest is important, I have nothing against it, and everybody needs that time when you are not thinking or doing anything and just relaxing yourself. But you can't be slouching on the couch for the entire day just because it is an off day, or maybe because you're too tired and you worked throughout the week, and now this is Sunday and I will just have my downtime. Of course you are entitled to it, but can you think of some way of making this time as related to your leisure and do something which is restorative, something which really rejuvenates you, makes you feel good, gives you a change. For example, like in my case, going for a long walk or doing some gardening is something that really energizes me. It makes me feel good. It gives me a focused distraction from my routine life, and I really value that and I feel great about it. For some others it can be going for a dance session, going for a bike ride, or anything that is not work a must do, but it helps you to rejuvenate. Now this I would call as a restorative time. So what we are trying to say is, you cannot have the entire downtime being wasted by doing nothing. it gives you rest, but at the same time, it creates a sense of lethargy. And the next day, when you get back to work, you will realize that there's nothing different that's happening in your life. Whereas, if you convert this downtime, at least some part of it, into a restorative time, I think it gives you a sense of change, which is very important to focus back to work. And better focus means you are doing things at a better pace, which means you are doing more things in the same time. Laura is a writer, and she has recently written a book, 168 Hours. And, in one of her chapters, she mentions that managing an abundance of time is as challenging as scarcity of time because it requires you to ask what matters. So sometimes it's important to prioritize. And as you do this, you will realize that you have less time for mundane things, things that are important, but they really are not something that you are keen on doing, and maybe they really don't add a tangible value per se in your work life. So prioritizing helps you to decide on which is the most important thing in your day. And as Brian Tracy in his book Eat That Frog, he has said that that most important thing is like a big frog that you have been dreading. But if you finish that task, the sense of anxiety and the constant preoccupation of achieving that major task in a given time is reduced, and you feel much better and in control about the other things that are lined up. So what is being suggested is, he particularly talks about A, B, C, D, E strategy, where he means that, you list down the priorities as A, B, C, D, E. And if you have sub priorities, then A can have A1, A2, and so on. So the thing is, prioritizing not only gives you a sense of planning, but executing the priority also gives you a sense of control over your own time, which is very important. Now, while prioritizing, we also talked about mundane things, things that you have to do, but you are really not keen on doing them. Think of, can you delegate those things? I mean, how about if somebody else can do certain things for me? While this is possible, but then there are times like this pandemic, when everything was quite restricted. You didn't have help around you. You were not outsourcing certain things which you would otherwise do as and when required, or when you were not ordering food when required. So the amount of work that you are expected to do, which otherwise you would have delegated or outsourced, has increased. Now, what do you do in such cases? Then maybe multitasking, pairing up something which you dread with something that you enjoy. Like, for example, listening to an audio book, maybe something that you enjoy, but folding the laundry, maybe something that you really don't enjoy. So, can you do them together? Maybe it helps, and you are not only uh, doing the work but also enjoying something that is happening at the same time. Now let me give you an example. uh, I personally never watch a movie just by sitting and watching a movie. I would always have something else to do while I'm doing that. And when there are breaks, I am not somebody who would mindlessly surf channels, but I would get up and I would do things like watering the plants or refilling my refrigerator bottles. Now, this sounds very simple, right? But understand it this way. What did I avoid? I avoided taxing my mind by mindless surfing of the channels. Okay. Second advantage, I got certain small things done. And third, and the most important, I made certain movements. I was not sitting continuously for 3 hours or 2.5 hours, whatever is the duration. We have all been talking about moving around, more exercise, and just small things that help us uh, in terms of our health. So when I say that you multitask, what I mean is please pair up a dreaded activity with an enjoyable activity. It reduces the cognitive load also, which keeps you more fresh and makes you feel less tired. Also, you get small things done without actually realizing that they are accomplished. Whereas if you want to do them otherwise, it might at least take, say, about 10 minutes to, refill the fridge bottles or water the plants. But while watching the movie, I didn't realize and I got things done. So, a very simple but a very, very effective technique. And you can think of your own ways of what are the things that you want to accomplish in that ad break of 2 or 3 minutes. One of the complaints that we always get from our clients and from our students is about distractions and interruptions. What do I mean by distractions and what do I mean by interruptions? So distraction can be something like a social media, a pop-up, a message from your on a group or from a friend, which is not actually important, but it has just come by the way. And what do I mean by interruptions? Interruptions are things that are slightly important and but you have not anticipated them. Like say you get a call or which you would want to take, or you have guest at home while you had not anticipated them. So research has shown that CEOs and top management actually spend 40% of their working hours catering to distractions and interruptions. While this may be less for students, or for some, if you don't have enough on your plate, this may be more than 40%. So, taking control of these small things like distractions on social media and these interruptions is very important. What can you do about it? I mean, there is plethora of knowledge on how you can avoid distractions from social media, and so while I would not want to delve deeper into that, I would want to focus on interruptions. So interruptions, say your friend is calling, you take the call. I'm just giving you an example. This is not the only way to do it. We all have our own ways to deal with things. So you take the call and you understand what is the agenda. And if you feel it's pressing, you deal with it there and then. But if not, I mean, can you say that, you are in middle of something and you will get back in the evening? Just because somebody else feels that this is important right now and probably they have the time to call you doesn't mean that you have to let go of the work at hand and attend to it. So if you can in a very subtle way have this discretion of not offending people yet giving a time to attend to them when it's convenient to you, it really helps get back to your work and have more of the focus time. Of course, you really can't do much if you have guests at home, but like friends calling, like emails popping up. For emails, you can always acknowledge and say that you will revert by this time next day or maybe by late evening. So one of my favorite responses is, I have received, thank you, can I get back by evening? It really doesn't take long. So what you have done, you have acknowledged the communication. Plus, you have given an assurance that you would do something about it. And at the same time, you have avoided an interruption and you could get back to your work at hand immediately. So you are being polite, yet you are planning and prioritizing in your own way. Now, this again helps to minimize the mere face time, but increases your actual efficiency. So, like, one of the challenges that we all had, in this last few months was we thought we have enough time with us, but at the same we realize that we are also whiling away a lot of time, and a lot of other things which were not that important are consuming most of your time. So thinking through these distractions and interruptions, and having your own unique way to deal with them is one thing that I would recommend. You should think through and spend some time on that. It takes at least a week or a month to get used to these habits, but once you are done, it just becomes your second nature. You really, I don't think I anymore think of responding to a message immediately. I would always acknowledge, and then I would respond at a time when I am done with other things that are important. While we are talking about so much of planning, I would emphasize always recognize the value of spontaneity, and have some open time. So, like, you can't be having your schedule, which is like 9 to 6, packed in a way that there is no room for something that comes up all of a sudden. And if it comes up, can you be agile enough and be spontaneous about it? Now this also requires practice. So having open time is important, but that open time should be limited to an extent of just dealing with things that may arise spontaneously, and not having too much of fragmented time that we initially talked about. Now, while we are talking about all these things, I would want to talk about one of my favorites, and which is energy management. So it's not just time management that helps you getting things done or helps you get more in less time. It is also about managing your energy. What do I mean by that? Observe when you feel the best, when your mind is working at a pace that you want, when you are most active, when you can focus better. And there will be time during the day when you are not that active, and maybe you would want to take things at a slower pace. This observation of your own energy as per as the day progresses is something which is very, very important. Because say if you are low on energy at a particular time, and you are given a task which is the most important task, the frog of the day we talked about, the most important, so you will not be able to concentrate and give your 100% to it. Eventually what happens, something which could have been done in an hour takes you 2 hours. So your time is gone, and it not only did go away, it also affected certain other activities that were planned in succession. So managing your energy, observing the time of the day when you are most active, when you can take the maximum cognitive load, is very important. You will realize that during the day there is a phase when you can take maximum cognitive load, and there is a day when you can take maximum physical load. I personally balance that out. Once I have identified this, I would schedule all my activities that require a physical effort in that period, while all the other activities which require my cognitive effort in the other period. And we have already spoken about, integrating the two in a multitasking way when you want to have leisure, or when you have the middle chunk, when It's not physical effort, it's not cognitive effort, but things that have to be done parallelly, and certain things which you have to do but you don't really enjoy doing that. So to build on this, I would want to give an example. There was a time when I was quite unwell, and while I was resting at home, um one of these days, my boss called, and we were having a discussion which didn't go that well, and I was being told that, but you have all the time. And it got me thinking, yes, I actually have all the time because I'm resting at home, but I had no energy. So I, at some point, had to convey that while I have all the time and the outside world feels that, she has nothing much to do but to take care of herself and rest, but genuinely, I had no energy to deliver the outcomes. So this kind of understanding is important not only for you, but you also have to convey it to the other people who are expecting certain things from you. And while you convey to the other person, you also should have an understanding that others can go through such phases. So this is something that Matt Martin in his interview with Forbes recently said, that more than time management, it is about energy management that makes you achieve a lot more in the limited duration of time. So we have talked about certain ways, and while I can go on, but I also want to draw your attention to, or maybe want to caution you to one of the flip sides. We talk about time valuation. Certain people would even go to the extent of saying time is money, and all that is true in a way. But too much of valuation of time gives a different kind of disadvantage. Let me elaborate with an example. Say, for instance, we have people, independent contractors, or people who get paid for services on hourly basis. What happens? As a result, they're intensely aware of the economic value of their time, and they face a constant choice of how to spend every hour, because while they're choosing that, they're calculating the money and the opportunity cost, you know uh, that is going for every hour that they spend on things that don't fetch them money, for example leisure, or for example volunteering activities. Now going this far can be detrimental. So, what I'm trying to do is, while I have established the importance of time management, while we have looked at certain ways which can help us achieve more in less time, I genuinely want to caution you to not stretch it too far to get a detrimental side effect. Now, hourly payment makes people keenly aware of their value of time, and it makes uh, so you would not want somebody to sit with you while and you are talking, and somebody look at the watch again and again and realize that, okay, this hour is wasted and I didn't make any money in this hour, because otherwise he or she is used to making money on hourly basis. So these kind of people, they will not have a sense of well-being. So while we want to be cautious about how we manage our time, and we in a way want to plan, prioritize, to improve our performance, we really don't want to stretch it too far to the extent that it affects your relationships or your own well-being in a particular way. So what I'm trying to say is, counterintuitively, being overly conscious about time's economic value may not lead to effective time management, because we are also talking about energy management, and energy management requires that we have some restorative activities, we have certain things that rejuvenate us. While we have spoken of all these things, so then if at any point you feel that, then what should we do? I would say that, the next time you feel overwhelmed and preoccupied, like my student that I met on the way, the best thing is to stay calm, think through, plan, prioritize, and most importantly, don't be lazy to implement some of the things we discussed. So, what happens is, we all are very fond of attending sessions, and we all are very fond of reading about certain things, but maybe we are not that particular about implementing it. And every individual would have his or her own style of imbibing the inputs, uh, filtering what is best for them, observing their schedule, observing their commitments, and then trying to create a balance. So, before we start going to the questions, and before, we would get into a discussion mode, I would want to emphasize that time is important. It is very important for your performance and well being. Time management alone doesn't help. Energy management is equally important. So while you look at these things that we have talked and I have just mentioned, also be very particular about customizing it as per your own need. There are no thumb rules. These are just suggestions. You need to integrate them, think through, see what works for you, what doesn't work for you. And, research has shown that for temporal behavior, I mean, behavior which talks about time, there are a lot of individual differences that come into play. One such example would be, people are categorized as segmenters and integrators. So while segmenters are people who cannot do two things at the same time, they would just want to keep things into compartments and just do one thing at a time and move on to the next. That's their personality. There's nothing right or wrong about it. At the same time, on the other end, there are integrators, people who can actually manage things together. And, it doesn't stress them out. And they're able to do justice to both the ends. So while these are suggestions, every individual should make an effort to think through for themselves and absorb and imbibe and implement what fits best for you. I think maybe we should take some questions now. And meanwhile, maybe if there are other things that come up, I can elaborate on that.
Uh, right. So we can, shall we start taking questions now from the audience?
Yes, yes.
Okay. So let me first thank you for a wonderful session. Students, you can ask your questions now to Miss Shilpa Sawant. I think she shared a lot of, her own experience, and there are many techniques that she shared with you as to how you can manage your time effectively. She also touched upon energy management, which is equally important. So time management, energy management. If you have any questions, students, please feel free to ask. All right. So in the meantime, actually, there is a question that I take from the Facebook. Uh, when there's students actually, so when you are studying, when you are in the college, your schedule is more or less prepared by your college. You have to go to the college at 7 o'clock, and your classes get over by say 11 o'clock or 12 o'clock, and then pretty much in the afternoon you have some tuition classes to attend, and then in the evening you spend some time with your mobile or you watch your television, and then the next day you wait for that 7 o'clock to go to your college. So it is pretty much the same every day. How can a student in fact look at setting some goals, and then setting some milestones for himself or herself, and how he or she can come out of this regular schedule that the college prepares for the students and do something more, even during the 3 years of their graduation? Would you like to share some tips with the students?
Sure. So I think this is a wonderful question because while we keep talking about, observe when you have maximum energy for X thing and maximum energy for Y thing, what if your schedule is constrained by an external element? So, look, there are things that you can change and there are things that you cannot change. While you cannot change the schedule of your classes, you can always tweak the time when you take rest and when you get down to self study. For example, there are students who actually get up at 4 and they feel that studying 4 to 6:30 is better than studying overnight or late at night. So these are students who have identified when their mind is working best and when do they have the energy to do something which is cognitive. Now, talking about things that if you want to do something extra, let me be very honest, if you are quite attentive in the lectures, and I really don't want to sound as if I'm preaching because I'm also a teacher, but then understand it this way: if you are attentive in a class, you are imbibing things that are important. You would know what the teacher wants to focus on. And in turn, when you go home and you have to do some assignment or some task, it will be much faster because you have paid attention in the class. Whereas if you are distracted or interrupted by your friends around and you didn't control that, you not only lose the hours of the class time, but you also have not imbibed and registered what was dealt with. So at home, you need to again start from scratch and give more time to an assignment. So something which could take 1 hour is now taking your 2 hours, and now you have no time for anything extra. So while the session talks about time management, and I introduced energy management because I think they go together, at no point in life can we let go of the importance of discipline. So two things: for students, you cannot control the schedule, agreed, but you can always control your time before and after this strict schedule. And can you manage that in a way that helps you do things which are mandatory, like your assignments, but also things which are really close to your heart, like a music session or an outing or a volunteer work?
Right. That's very important for students to understand. There is one more follow-up question actually. Students often they face this challenge of saying, "I don't have anything to do now." So how one deals with a situation where your mind tells you that I have nothing to do?
I really envy you for having that kind of freedom when you can say that I have nothing to do, because as you get into your professional life, you will always complain that you have so much to do and less time. So yes, uh, I understand this question, and I have not that I have not gone through these stages. Yes, there are times when you feel that there's nothing to do, but then you have also observed that what rejuvenates you. Like I said that, there are things that we do which are mandatory, and there are things which we do for our own happiness, for our own restoration. And if you have not identified things like that, I think the first task is to identify them. And maybe, the world is full of, in need of volunteers. For every initiative that is out there, people are looking for volunteers. Maybe it's not about not having anything to do, but it's more about not being aware of what all you can do. So, can you spend some time and observe what's happening around you? Which are the areas where you can contribute? And maybe then you will never have a situation when you feel that I want to do something, but there's nothing really out there that I would do.
Right. That's so true. There is one question that I can see in the chat window: how to manage the time, when you have job, when you have your family to, attend to, a lot of other things, and friends to talk to and spend time with. How do you really manage your time well, particularly for somebody who has just joined any organization? you know uh, there is certainly a lot of work pressure because you have joined a new organization. You'll have a lot to do, and then at the same time you might be missing your friends quite a lot because you just have finished your college. And during this time when you have a lot to do for the family as well, given that you may have to step out to buy certain stuff, etc., for the family. So how do you manage all of this together? So somebody is asking this question, and thought I'll
Sure.
just pose that question.
Sure. So, two things. First is, when you join an organization, and maybe, if this is the first time that you have stepped out to work, you have to have the acceptance that there will be a transition phase. The moment we develop a kind of acceptance for the transition phase, the phase when you are moving out of the student life and entering into your professional life, this is what I mean by the transition phase. So acceptance is one thing. Accepting that now is the time when I need to devote more energy to one of the areas which right now looks like your professional area. That is important. Once this acceptance comes in, your desire to hang out with friends will be there, but you would know that you will have to manage it only over the weekends. You Because you have accepted the constraint, you will be more than happy to adjust and have time with them only over the weekends, or similar things like that. While we are in this transition phase, so there are these sessions that happen specifically for people in transition, like people moving from student life to professional life, people moving out of professional life. So we do time management sessions even for people who are retiring. That is another transition phase that people go through. So these are critical moments. You need at least 2 or 3 months to get used to that. So, what I'm trying is accept that it is a transition phase, build your willpower to say that, yes, this is important, but right now. So, look, your friends didn't become your good friends overnight, right? You devoted years of attention and time and, other things. And now you have that kind of bonding. Similar thing will happen with profession also. You will not become an expert and get comfortable in your professional life in a day. It will require a couple of months, a couple of years, but there will be a time when you will feel a bit in control. But you have to work through it, right? So accept that this is transition. accept that there will be challenges, and then can you communicate it to your people who are expecting time and attention from you? The moment you communicate, you will realize that they completely understand. It was only you who was feeling overwhelmed and pressurized. Maybe, I mean, as of now, I think this is the best way that we have identified so far while dealing with people in transition. That it's your own mindset, it's your own inertia. It's not the other person who's being more demanding. Probably you have to accept and convey it to them. And then, as we spoke, delegate, multitask, manage your schedule, cut down on the fragmented time, have more of actual efficiency and less of just being on the screen for the sake of being on the screen and being available. So I think it's very natural to feel that way and feel challenged, but acceptance and planning can help you wade through this.
Right. You talked about multitasking. You may have read some people say there is nothing called multitasking. You have one processor, you can do just one thing at a time. How do you take that? And what is your suggestion to students, those who are looking at how multitasking is seen actually? And what does multitasking mean? And how do you respond to a question that there is nothing called multitasking because you have one processor and you can work on one thing at a time?
Sure. So, while I agree and I understand the apprehensions that come with the use of the word multitasking, and yes, so there are two school of thoughts. One which says that yes, there is no multitasking. We actually do things one after the other. Okay, and in reality that's how it is. So like when I said, when you are watching a movie and there is a break and you step up and step out and you do something else, you fill the bottles in the fridge or you water your plants. So basically what you did was one activity after the other. It was not happening simultaneously, so that cannot be called as multitasking, right? But for example, something like I said earlier, when you are folding the laundry but also listening to an audio book, these are two things that are happening simultaneously and in actual sense may be considered as multitasking. So yes, there is one processor. Yes, it's difficult to handle more than one thing, but then we are pairing up cognitive with physical. We are pairing up something which is dreaded with something which is enjoyable. Like as simple as when you work on a system, while you are answering the email, you are also listening to the music. The system is also playing songs for you, right? So if that can happen, I think human mind can also do it to some extent. Of course, you cannot do things that require 100% of your attention and focus. Of course, things like, studying a new subject, trying to do some assignments, that can be very challenging and it will require all. But at the same time, there are things which you can to an extent do simultaneously. And I mean, and personally, that's how I look at it.
Right. Um, so there is one more question because the time has been very very difficult for everybody because of the COVID-19 pandemic. And when you are looking at bouncing back, when you are looking at you know looking at a new day actually post COVID-19 pandemic, given that there are news that the vaccines will be available to people by the first quarter or maybe the fourth quarter this year. Um, what are the tips that you would like to share with students as to how this would, because last 8 or 9 months people have been locked down in their houses, and when you start stepping out, there is a lot of travel time, uh, 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 waiting time, etc., that you really spend without really realizing that you are spending so much of your precious time, how they can make the best use of some of these travel time, waiting time, etc., when they are traveling or they are on the roads. Would you like to share some tips with the students?
Sure. So, it's really going to be challenging because we have all got so comfortable and so used to of doing things without traveling and not waiting in queues or not being in crowded trains, or I mean, people in Mumbai would relate to that. So we have kind of got comfortable with this, and now when things go back to normal, and which I pray should be very soon, again it will take some days or at least a month for you to get used to the routine. And the biggest hit is going to be not only your time but also your energy, because uh, you have been comfortably doing things from home. When you travel to work, the traffic and the traveling time takes some amount of energy which you have been conserving as of now for all 8 9 months. So the hit is not only going to be on time but also on your energy. One of the things that really helps is finding out activities that you can delegate in this time. For example, can you answer all your emails, WhatsApp messages, and calls when you are in cab or when you are sitting in, a waiting area, maybe for a screening to be done before they allow you to enter the public space, or things like that. Maybe thinking of activities. So like right now, what you would do, you would sit comfortably and you would answer emails, or you would sit for 5 10 minutes and you would look up your WhatsApp messages at regular intervals. Now what I'm trying to say is, can you cluster these activities together and decide that when I step out, and anyways I will not have any other cognitive load on my mind, can I do these activities in that duration? Second thing would be, for at least a month or so, you will realize that your efficiency is low. In that case, maybe having less commitments, maybe having more time and asking for fewer deadlines can help. And again, as I have been stressing, because it's not only your time that's going to be hit, but it's also your energy that's going to be hit. While we talk of all this, there is one positive side to it. You will be able to outsource the work that you have been doing. You will be able to delegate things to the help that you have at home, or maybe to the external agencies that you use for your routine stuff. So while time and energy is going to take a hit in one way, you are also going to save on time and energy in other ways. So look at it as a balancing act and another transition that very soon you will get comfortable to in a month or so. But yes, how you should utilize that time is clustering activities, which identifying them and clustering, which you would as a routine do only and only in that duration, or preferably in that duration.
Yeah, I think I liked your idea of how you can use your time while you're traveling, by doing some of these things, responding to your WhatsApp messages, etc. Perhaps that helps you to utilize your time well. There is one question that has come in. Is because you don't manage your time well, or you don't understand how you are utilizing your time, you go on to make overcommitments. You make promises, perhaps your time will not allow you or permit you to complete. So how do you really manage your commitments well, just in case you are struggling with time management, or you think time management needs to be fixed first before you can look at your commitment and how you manage your commitments.
So, while we were talking, I mentioned something like having space for spontaneity, being prepared for it, and having some open time. So, while an awareness about how much you can do and what all you can do is a great strength, there's no match to that. Once you are aware of it, you will not overcome it. But just in case it happens, but you have followed the suggestion of having some open time and spontaneity management. So I think it should help to balance it out. Otherwise, the safest thing is to again think through what your priorities are, and what if one of these three commitments is what if you're not able to fulfill one of these three commitments. What are your stakes? Can you communicate it to the other person and do a trade off? I mean, that's the best way to deal with it. First is, if you already have open time slots, if you already have thought of spontaneous things that may crop up, and you have some free slots for that, nothing like it. But just in case you have overcommitted and you realize that, oh my god, now this is something which is I'm not able to deal with, the best thing is to prioritize, look at your stakes, think of a trade off, and communicate that to the other party, saying that, yes, I thought I would be able to do that, but I'm sorry, this is something that has come up. And would you be willing to give me some more days for it? Generally, it works, And if it's hard luck, but you have already thought through if this was the most important thing for you, you might just let go of that then. And what is the harm in letting go of something? I mean, if you have prioritized, you are very sure of what you are letting go of, and you should be absolutely fine with it. I think Chitra is asking a question saying that, is it important to start our day as early as 5 a.m.? If yes, why so? Chitra, what a wonderful question. So, I personally feel it's not important. While traditional knowledge and other streams of knowledge have established that certain hours of the day are better to do certain things, for exercise, for studies, and that's completely true. I have very high regard for them. But if you are somebody who just cannot get up at 5 a.m., you can't just be awake and do nothing, right? So then it's better to accept that my body clock doesn't work that early. Maybe I can get up at 7, but then I can achieve much more because I'm alert and active rather than being drowsy and not utilizing those hours. So, personally, I feel it is about your own routine, about your own mindset, and about your own focus and energy. When is it that you have the maximum focus and energy? If it is late in night, please work late in night. If it is early in morning, please work early in morning. Think for yourself. There's no right or wrong answer to this, and one should not even try to say that this is right or wrong. It's an individual choice, an individual take on what works best for you. I have seen people who have really achieved a lot. I mean, at least as much as people who claim to start their day early, but they are the ones who burn the midnight oil. They are not the ones who get up at odd hours early in the morning and then start their day. So personally, I feel that it should not be made a thumb rule for success, or you should not say that this is the only way to do it. It's an individual take, it's an individual difference. The only thing is, Whatever time you have, manage it well, whether it's morning 5 to night 10 or morning 7 to night 12. It hardly makes a difference. You are just utilizing 2 hours either early or 2 hours later. But whatever time it is, use it to the best possible way.
Yeah, the message is do what works for you. Fantastic. I think that was a great session, Mrs. Sawant. I'm sure the students must have learned quite a lot about time management from you today, and they're going to use this, because if they start applying these techniques early in their life, their careers can be much better, much structured, and they can do definitely a lot more than what they can do when their time is not managed well. Thank you so much once again. It was a fantastic session. And let me very formally thank you for again taking the time out from your schedule to talk to our students and share your experience and your knowledge about this important subject of time management. Thank you once again, and we appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.